This is Distant Replay. Well, we're getting close to playoff time on Last Chance U, featuring East LA College on Netflix. If you haven't been watching it, make sure you do it. It's a great show. A lot of fun to follow this team. You get invested. I've gotten invested on this team, Mike, throughout. And I'm like psyched for the playoffs. What's going to happen here? Because I know COVID is lingering, bro. COVID is right there on the corner, and it's only a matter of time.
You know what they do a great job of in this show is they put what the countdown is to the playoffs, and they're not telling you what the date is.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I know we're hovering around March here as we get into the playoffs, and it doesn't seem like the playoffs are overly take that long in terms of time. So again, it's like a countdown clock. You keep your eye on like, oh man, when's that shoe gonna drop?
There was a shot in this episode with him in front of a calendar, I think, or the date was in the background. And I think it was like late, like February 20 something. So we're like the last week of February at this point. So we know everything kind of shuts down around March 9th or so. So I don't know how frequently they're playing these games in the playoff, like what the schedule is. Is it like a game every 3 days, or is it like the tournament now where you have each weekend you're playing games? I'm not sure how that necessarily works, but we're getting close. So we're going to go all through episode number 6 on this episode of Distant Replay. We're recapping episode by episode of Last Chance U. You can find everything online, distantreplaypodcast.com, on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram as well. So this episode begins, Mike, with a game, the final regular season game against Rio Hondo again. They're back. The rivalry with that kid number 33 who apparently shoots lights out in the first half against East LA, and this one he gets off to a good start again, but they quickly shut the door. And you know what I thought was crazy about this? I feel like there's always still a game where we see a highlight of a guy that hasn't been featured in this series at all, or if I just have overlooked him. Like there was a dunk by number 22 that was like a reverse dunk or something. I forgot what it was. Just another incredible dunk. And I'm like, who is this guy that we haven't been talking about at all?
Yeah, we mentioned the guy last episode. I think it was the same guy.
Maybe it was.
But anyway, they have a very talented roster. I mean, their focus is obviously on the guys they highlight all the time, like Hyler and Joe Hampton and Muhammad and
KJ, your boy.
KJ Allen. Yeah, but they have some serious players on this team. I think guys that will step in, the next season here, which would be this year. But yeah, just a talented roster all around. And that Rio Hondo, they mentioned in that game, leading up to that game, that East LA has won 27 in a row at this point.
Crazy.
So they are just rolling. You wouldn't know it by this, the way they edit this footage here. It seems like a lot of drama for a team that's won 27 in a row.
Yeah, I swear, like every game, well, there's drama, but every game seems like close. But then, they edit it in such a dramatic way, but you actually catch the glimpse of the scoreboard. It's like a 15 or 20-point game. But they definitely make it seem like it's a little more interesting and hanging in the balance than it actually is. But we actually get the playoff bracket release. So we actually get to, after that win over Rio Hondo, we get the playoff bracket. 20 teams are in, and they have like a north and south of the bracket for the state of California. I was trying to figure out how East LA was a 2 seed. A 2 seed, I think they were 27-1 or 28-1. How are they a 2 seed?
But they got a bye, right?
Yeah. But is there an undefeated team that we're not hearing anything about yet?
Yeah, I don't know, but they did get a bye. And I think, like you were going through the timeline before, they had like a week off in between their last regular season game and their first playoff game because of that bye.
Yeah.
And I think it was a source of really big concern for the coach. And I think that week off might have been good for the players, but I think Mosley, he just seemed really nervous.
Yeah, he's on edge. And it was great. What we kind of get a sense of why. I mean, obviously we know because of his playoff pedigree and lack of championship. But the Saddleback team, that's basically the team that he's expecting them to be playing in their first matchup, because they're in the previous game. I don't remember who they're playing, but he was like, no disrespect to whoever the other team is, but I'm going to start preparing for Saddleback. But we find out that Saddleback is a team they have history with, and he tells the story of their head coach, like getting their player, like setting up his player right during the game by making a comment and catching him off guard and getting the getting a technical, I think it was. Did that catch you off guard? Like I think Mosley didn't expect that kind of, I don't know if you want to call it gamesmanship, but it seemed like a pretty dirty move. And they kind of framed this guy as like an evil villain, this other coach.
Yeah, so basically what Ben's alluding to is, the coach for this Saddleback sent out one of his players to purposely like piss off one of the East LA players in a past year's game they had, like a key East LA player. And the East LA player like totally overreacted, got a technical. That was his like third foul of the game, and it changed the whole momentum of the game.
Yep.
And that the coach for Saddleback sort of gave, Mosley a nod, like after it happened, like, yeah, there you go, gotcha, yeah.
Yep.
And Mosley admitted like he wasn't ready for like the game of chess that this guy was playing, and that he was going to be ready this time. I mean, he's even telling Joe Hampton, like, hey, look, Joe, there's a scouting report on you, and the scouting report is they can get you frustrated, so expect them to pull every trick out of the bag,
Yeah. And I think it was the 2015 state championship game. That's what they go back to, and one in which I think East LA was probably the favorite again, and one that they came up short when he didn't expect that to be the case. But, it leads to, and you mentioned being on the edge, another practice blow-up, another epic rant where a coach was basically like, you guys out of the gym. If you're not coming to play, just go. And he's like grabbing balls from guys and like literally kicking them out of practice. And it was eye-opening because a lot of those guys were just kind of hanging out in the locker room like, are you for real? Did we just really get booted out of our own gym?
Exactly. It was kind of like to me, I get a lot of like the rants he went on, like during the season. I thought they were well timed. This one, I didn't really think so. When you find out later they don't have a game for a week, it's a little bit easier to stomach. Yeah. But I just thought it was strange how like even the one kid wanted to go like and get extra shots up, and like he took the ball from him and said, "No, you're not going in the gym." The players, I think, handled it okay. They weren't like really happy about it, but they're 19, 20-year-old kids. You're telling them, "Hey, you don't have to practice today." They're not going to be that upset about it. Let's be real. Especially in March, as Coach Robinson goes over, everyone's on each other's nerves at this point. No one wants to practice, players or coaches. They just want to get to the game. And they have this week layover. And Mosley's overall point was, if you have one bad reaction to something, one bad play,
right,
you're complacent for 1 second, your season could be over. I mean, I guess from that point I get it, but I just thought it wasn't very well timed.
I'm always amazed by the reaction of the players. And this is probably like kind of captures the experience of coaching at this level. But you have like some guys laughing, like thinking it's a joke. Then you have some guys that are serious. Then you have another guy on the side that's on his phone, like doing God knows what, right? During this moment where like it should be kind of a bonding moment and should be taken probably pretty serious at this point in the year. I mean, this is your season essentially on the line. Just everybody's approach is different. It always amazes me watching the way these guys react.
Yeah, it's every personality is different, Hyler reacted like, hey, look, he's right. We didn't bring it today. We weren't playing right.
Yeah.
Joe Hampton's fixated on the fact that he got kicked out of the gym. Every episode we talk about just how these kids and their perspective, it's wild.
It's so up and down. And I thought after last episode that like these guys were back on track right after that trip to the camp, and they were out, having that field trip and that outing together and really bonding. I thought, man, this is gonna be fun the rest of the way. Like they turned the corner. Everybody's forget about getting tired of each other. It's a fresh start for these last few weeks of the season. But like so much for that, man. After that experience, it didn't take long for the blow up to happen once again, and these guys to kind of be all over the place. But we do get to our playoff game versus Saddleback. And this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, so they expected the bad officiating, but and I don't know if it's still editing, and it's built up. They're trying to build up the drama and really kind of try to tell a story that maybe is not completely there. We don't know, but it did make it look like the officiating was horrible, and it kind of was led by KJ getting into foul trouble early, which was my first thought. Like, oh man, you lose KJ. I mean, that's the one guy on this team that they lose, and things could get off the rails pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was surprised that it seemed like it was a team with a lot of big guys, like not really athletic, but just big dudes, like 6'10", 7 feet kind of guys.
Yep.
You would think KJ would have an advantage against them because he's bigger and quicker. But yeah, he really, really struggled. He picked it up a little bit later in the game. The fouls they were not handling. I think they were a lot more talented than the other team, so it ended up not mattering. But again, they just did not handle the adversity of refs not making calls they wanted very well. And it was one of those games where, they made, that coach, I think he's like a legendary coach, the Saddleback coach, like in junior college circles. Yeah. But again, that guy could be the nicest guy in the world, but these producers make him look like such a jerk. He just looked like a jerk.
Yeah.
Like every shot they had at him, he just had like a scowl on his face.
I know, you nailed it. Like, I don't know anything about him. I'll probably look him up when the season's over and kind of figure out who he is a little bit more. But you're right. He could be like the best coach, nicest guy. But in this, he looks like a complete a-hole, right? Like, you're just pulling against him to lose in this. And you're thinking back to that moment where he kind of played dirty, I guess, is how Mosley kind of framed that whole past story. But like during this whole thing, it's so dramatic, right? You get KJ's in trouble. There are bad calls going against him. They just can't believe it. But throughout this game, they're leading comfortably. I'm like pausing it, trying to get the scoreboard because I'm trying to figure out whether or not they're truly in danger because it feels like it, but they're up like 15 throughout. End up winning 69-53. So pretty comfortable win. And now they're like on to the semifinals in like the South. Like they're pretty deep in the bracket. You mentioned there's not a ton of games in this tournament, but I want to know what you think is going to happen here. Like, do we even get another game in? There's still there's 2 episodes left, right? 7 and 8.
There are, yeah. So I think that, let's say this first game was in early March. I think we may get one more playoff game.
Okay, and then that last episode's like a what if.
I think we'll get through the Southern California region. You know what I mean? But I don't think we'll get to the point where there's like the North and South.
Yeah.
Because the top 2 teams. I think the top 2 teams from each bracket make it to the state championship.
Right.
So I don't think we'll get to the state championship. That's my prediction.
Yeah, with 2 episodes left, they could easily get 2 games in next episode, but I don't think there's any way they get to a championship game, right? I mean, I think that's pretty safe to assume.
No, I don't think there's any way.
Maybe we get surprised. I mean, I don't know. But
I came back from spring training at the Mets last year, like March 10th or 11th.
Yeah.
And pretty much the day after I got back, like, the world ended.
It was over. Yeah. So we're either very, very end of February or very beginning of March. Not totally sure, but we're probably within 10 days of COVID shutting everything down. So we'll find out very quickly. We're going to do every episode. Again, we're not watching this. You might be listening going, you guys are idiots. They didn't play. They didn't even play one more game. Or you might be like, hey, they won a state championship. You guys are crazy. But we don't know. We haven't Googled anything. We haven't gotten ahead. We're taking it episode by episode, and I'm having fun of doing it this way because I'm investing in these guys, man. And do you find yourself pulling for them or pulling against them?
Pulling for them.
Okay.
I mean, you get to know the guys, you know. You feel like it's like, hey, you know what? Joe Hampton might have an attitude problem. Hyler may not always be peachy, but, you know, they're my guys.
Peachy.
You know?
Yeah, he's probably never been described as peachy. You're right.
No, never.
Well, we'll find out. We got 2 more episodes to go. We're going to continue to recap them, and then we'll move on to more documentaries. But hit subscribe so you won't miss an episode. We got plenty more to come. Plus, we're still doing games. Just got done with the 1988 Slam Dunk Contest. That's out if you haven't listened to that one. That was a lot of fun to go back to. Plus, a lot of true crime. So leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. But also, if you got any recommendations on what we should watch, we'll put it on our list. We got a lot of stuff in the queue, but we're happy to continue to take listener recommendations.
Keep those recommendations coming. We love them. We like the interaction with you guys in the comments. Please rate, review on your podcasting app, and subscribe. And also subscribe on YouTube. It helps us a lot. And until next time.